Hi, let's discuss the two most important ideas from the most important Western philosopher. Uh, his name is Martin Heidegger, and his two famous ideas. The first is called thrownness, and the second idea is called dasein. So let's start with the idea of thrownness. The idea of thrownness is we have to think of the word of culture. We have to think of nature. We have to think of nurture. So let's think about nature and nurture. What is the issue with nature and nurture? People think that it's a split that's either nature or nurture. But when you notice, if you think about it deeper, you realize there is no separation between nature and nurture, and that is what you are. Your essence is your culture and your biology. How were you brought up in the world? And what body did your consciousness enter into? Okay, so let's think about how your body works, right? You are given some genetics from your parents, and then once you are born, your environment, which is your family, your friends, media, the news, the language that you speak. Okay. Have you ever thought about do I speak English or does English speak me? It's very, very weird. But in reality, English speaks you because English created your identity. You grew up speaking English with all of your family and friends. And now English is how you understand the world. And that's what created you as an identity. Okay, so you have a body that was given to you from your parents, but ultimately it was given to you via human evolution. If you think about when Homo sapiens began, Homo sapiens have a certain body type that is different from, for example, Homo erectus from 2 million years ago. Our bodies have shifted, okay? So we have these bodies that we don't really control, right? Do you control your eye color, the form of your mouth, the facial hair, right? I can't grow a full beard. Do I control that? No. I'm balding a little bit, right? Do I control that? No, I don't control that at all. I don't even control what language I speak. I don't control where I went to college even, right? How was that choice made? Did I make the choice 100% of where I went to college? No, it's because you were thrown into a circumstance and you had to act upon it. There's no other reason. It's really your environment and your biology that ended up making that decision for you. You actually did not end up making the decision of where you went to college. It was just the thing that had to be done. Okay, so thrownness is talking about the body, and then thrown is your consciousness. Your consciousness is thrown into your body and how your mind works. So your consciousness is a thing aware of your mind. Your mind is the reaction to your environment. So you have your 5 senses, you see things, you touch things, and then your mind interprets it. Your mind was created by your environment and your biology, but really more your environment, because your parents taught you rules, like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Society told you what was good and bad, and what is beautiful and ugly. And these are the ideas that are that make up your mind. So your mind is always judging the outside environment, okay? But really the mind is not separate from the environment. There's no separation. So your mind has a will of its own. It's its own animal. So you, which is your consciousness, does not control your mind. Your mind controls itself. It's a whole nother entity from you. So you believe that you're the voice in your head, but that is actually the voice in your head was created by your environment. Okay, so ultimately you have to learn to stop listening to your mind, because that is not you. It creates the illusion of the outside world. Okay, so all that was thrown was your consciousness, just your pure awareness, the thing that watches your life. Okay, what is the thing that has always existed from your birth until now and will always be there in the future? Okay, it is your awareness and nothing else. The awareness doesn't ultimately change because it's always in the now moment. Okay, the essence never changes. It's not an idea, it's not a human concept. It's just raw reality. Okay? And we'll talk about that. We'll talk what that is about when we mention dasein, but we're still mentioning thrownness. But the idea is you're not controlling the world. It's not you. There's only you are the screen, and life is the movie. So what is the difference between the screen and the movie? Right? The screen always exists, and it's kind of it's blank and neutral. But then the movies are always changing. The characters are changing. Okay, but the screen always existed. So that is the thing that was thrown, okay, into a context, into an historical context. Okay, so even your belief system, your worldview, was given to you by the culture that you inherited. Okay, your culture has certain values. Okay, if you grew up in the United States, you were taught about freedom and being independent, being an individual, and taking science seriously. The idea that the individual makes up the community. Okay, and a lot of other places, the community is the center of life. The community is more important than the individual. But in the United States, we were taught the reverse. Okay, but there's nothing objective about that. Nothing at all. It's just an idea that was taught to you into your brain chemistry. And you believe that this is true objectively. Okay, but remember the thing that was thrown into that historical context, right, is just the pure awareness. Okay, the pure awareness doesn't judge. It never judges anything and never believes a human idea. So the human ideas are the maps to the territory, right? If you want to travel through Minnesota, you need to find a map of Minnesota, right? But the map of Minnesota oversimplifies the land. When you're driving through Minnesota, the land looks much different than the map. Okay, humans create maps so that they can survive. That's what a belief system is. A belief system and a worldview is the oversimplification of reality. Okay, so this oversimplification is your historical context and what your historical context teaches you. Okay, so your consciousness is thrown into the nature and the environment, and you have no control over it. Okay, so what is the nature of you? What is the nature of anything? Okay, so is everything thrown? Right? Was your family thrown into the context, into their context, right? Or do they not have consciousness? Are they zombies? But ultimately, you realize that everything is thrown into its historical context. Okay, for something to be, it needs to, for something to exist, it needs to be thrown. Okay, so the thing that's being thrown again is the infinite consciousness, because consciousness has no limits. There's no barriers in consciousness. It's ultimately, it's not like it's my consciousness versus your consciousness. The consciousness is just thrown into a circumstance, and the circumstance is finite, and the circumstances are theoretically separate from other circumstances. That's why we believe that there are individuals, right? You say, oh, here is me, and there is you. Okay, so the consciousness was thrown into you and into me. So that's where that's why there seems to be separation, because consciousness, for it to exist, needs to be thrown into a circumstance. Okay, so the circumstances seem true to the thing that believes it's the circumstance and not the thing that was thrown, which was your pure consciousness, right? So there's the consciousness that was thrown into the context, and then we believe that we are the context versus the consciousness that was thrown. Okay, so now everything that we see around us was thrown. Okay, so the ultimate question is, what is the essence of everything? Is there something in common with everything? Right, so we have the ocean, we have technology, we have different forms of technology. But what does everything ultimately have in common? Do we think that it's physics? So science tries to figure it out physically, okay? But obviously not everything is physical, okay? Even physics is ultimately telling us this, because quantum mechanics is going more and more and more advanced, and telling us that for an atom to exist, there needs to be both existence and non-existence. There needs to be the existence and then the kind of the immaterial realm of reality. So just the fact that there's an immaterial realm of reality is telling us that existence and reality is bigger than the physical. So the physical world, kind of the circumstances that we have to live within, is just part of all of reality. So the physical world is just part of all of reality. Okay, so really, what does everything have in common? What do your dreams have in common with what existed before you were born? So if you imagine what existed before I was born, right? It seems kind of like the void or blackness or silence. Okay, but that event existed within consciousness, within being. Okay, so now we're going to kind of use the word consciousness and being together. You can call it conscious being. Okay, conscious/being. Okay, so what everything has in common is being. Okay, and now we can introduce the idea of dasein. Okay, dasein is a German word, and sein means existence. All of existence, and also means being. So being and existence are synonymous. So dasein, so sein within the dasein is existence, okay? And as we said, existence needs to have a context to be thrown into, the thrownness, right? Pure existence can't exist just as itself. It needs a circumstance to exist in, right? Everything was created so that existence can exist. Okay, so da, I believe, means like here or there, and here and there necessarily means that here is separate from not here. So here, for example, I am here in this room, but I'm not there in the street. So there's theoretically a separation within this circumstance, the circumstantial world, where I am here and you are there. Okay, so dasein means pure existence, complete existence, conscious being, unmanifested, unfiltered consciousness that is the essence of everything, completely everything. So that gets thrown into a situation or a circumstance, that's full of separate things. Okay, so we have the ocean and then we have waves, right? But what is the difference between the ocean and the waves? Okay, the waves are the circumstances because they seem separate from the other waves. Okay, but what is the essence of a wave? It's the ocean, right? If we never learned about the word wave, there would only be ocean. Okay, ocean is the sein, and the waves are the da. So dasein. So there's the complete existence, and then there's the separateness. Okay, so ultimately, the world is made of dasein, or it's the phenomenon of existence is dasein. So it is full unmanifested truth that then gets manifested into separate things. And that's the only way for the non-dual, the oneness, to exist, is to be thrown into a particular context, into a particular body or a particular wave at that moment. Okay, so really what a body is, a human person, is the essence is pure consciousness, and that pure consciousness is the ocean that all people and all animals and all plants share. So that the essence of everything is shared. Okay. So again, everything has to be thrown into a context. Thrownness. Our nature is thrownness, and our nature is dasein. It's our dreams. It's our dreamless sleep. So our deep sleep. When we're sleeping, we're not dreaming all of the time. The essence of that is pure consciousness. So you can be aware of it. Ultimately, when you meditate really deeply, you become aware of even deep sleep. Okay. So when you're kind of living your life, you're seeing all of these separate things, but what do they have in common? Pure being, pure beingness, pure isness, pure consciousness. Okay. So that is why everybody has the light, the pure light. Peace.